My daughter-in-law accidentally sent a message saying I was a dead weight in the family. I had been paying her mortgage for years. I stayed silent until the next payment was due. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and comment the city you're watching from. I'm Barbara, and at 67 I thought I knew what family meant. I thought I understood love, sacrifice, and gratitude. That Thursday morning changed everything I believed about the people I'd spent 8 years supporting. It started with Stella's phone buzzing on my kitchen counter. She'd left it there after our usual coffee chat, rushing off to her yoga class with a kiss on my cheek and promises to call later. The phone kept ringing, so I picked it up to take it to her car before she drove away. That's when I saw it. A text message thread still open on the screen. My name right there in the conversation. God, Barbara is such a dead weight in this family. Stella had written to someone named Jessica. She's always hanging around, acting like she's so helpful. I can't wait until we don't need her mortgage payments anymore. My hand started shaking. The phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I kept reading, unable to stop myself. She thinks she's so generous paying our mortgage, but honestly, it's the least she can do. She has no life of her own, so she might as well make herself useful to us. Jessica had responded. At least she's good for something. How much longer until you can get rid of her? Mark says maybe 2 more years if his promotion comes through. Then we can finally tell her to back off. She's so clingy and desperate for attention. I sank into my kitchen chair, the phone still in my trembling hands. 8 years. 8 years of paying their $2,400 monthly mortgage payment because Stella had cried to me about how they were struggling as newlyweds. 8 years of believing I was helping my son and his wife build their future. But I wasn't helping. I was just useful. The front door opened and Stella's voice called out, "Barbara? I think I forgot my phone." She walked into the kitchen, all smiles and sunshine, her yoga mat tucked under her arm. Before I tell you more about my story, I want to ask, have you ever felt muscle or joint pain like I have? Best Joint Care is a natural supplement that goes straight to the root of the pain, so you can move more freely and enjoy life again. Thousands of people have already said goodbye to joint pain. You could be next. Click the link pinned in the comments to get yours. Now back to my story. Oh, there it is. You're an angel for grabbing it. I handed her the phone, my face carefully neutral. It was ringing. Thanks, honey. You're the best. She kissed my cheek again, the same spot as before. I'll call you later about dinner plans, okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. She bounced out of the house, her blonde ponytail swinging, humming some tune I didn't recognize. So carefree. So fake. I sat there for an hour after she left, staring at the coffee cups we'd shared. The same cups we'd used every Thursday morning for the past 3 years. The same ritual where she'd update me on Mark's work, their vacation plans, their dreams for the future. Dreams I was funding. Dead weight. Clingy. Desperate for attention. The words echoed in my head as I walked through my house, seeing it differently now. The family photos on the mantle, was I imagining it? Or did Stella always look slightly uncomfortable when she was next to me? The guest bedroom I'd kept ready for them, decorated with colors Stella had mentioned she liked. Had that been me being thoughtful or just desperate? I pulled out my banking app and scrolled through 8 years of mortgage payments. $230,400. Almost $250,000. Money from my retirement savings, my late husband's life insurance, my careful budgeting and sacrifice. For what? To be tolerated? To be useful? That evening Mark called. "Hey Mom. Stella said you two had coffee today. Thanks again for everything you do for us." His voice sounded normal, loving even. But now I heard something else underneath, the same tone you'd use with a reliable service provider. Polite. Appreciative. Distant. "How was work today?" I asked, testing. "Oh, same old stuff. Listen, I can't talk long. Stella's making dinner and I promised I'd help." "Of course. I love you, Mark." "Love you too, Mom. Talk soon." The line went dead, and I sat there holding the phone, wondering if I'd imagined the slight impatience in his voice when he said he couldn't talk long. Wondering if I'd always been an interruption in their perfect life together. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the past 8 years. Every birthday dinner where Stella had seemed distracted. Every holiday where she'd checked her phone constantly. Every time I'd offered to help with something and gotten that bright, hollow smile. I wasn't their family. I was their ATM. And tomorrow I'd have to pretend I didn't know. The next morning I made a decision that surprised even me. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. Instead I would watch. I would listen. I would finally see my family with clear eyes instead of the loving, hopeful blur I'd been living in for 8 years. Friday came and Stella texted me like always. Coffee at 10? I have so much to tell you about Mark's work situation. I responded the way I always did. Of course, dear. I'll put the pot on. She arrived in her usual whirlwind of energy, designer workout clothes, and that megawatt smile. But this time I noticed how her eyes didn't quite match her expression when she looked at me. This time I saw the quick glance at her watch when she thought I wasn't looking. So, she said, settling into her usual chair. Mark's boss is being such a pain about the promotion timeline. It might be another year before things change. Another year. I remembered her text. Maybe 2 more years if his promotion comes through. That must be frustrating, I said carefully. Oh, it is. But you know what? We're so grateful to have you helping us through this rough patch. Some people don't have family they can count on. Family they can count on. The words felt like sand in my mouth. I'm happy to help, I said, the lie coming easier than I expected. Stella's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her whole face lit up, genuinely lit up, in a way it never did when she was talking to me. Sorry, it's Jessica. She's having drama with her mother-in-law again. Stella laughed, a real laugh. I swear, some older women just don't know when to back off, you know? My coffee cup rattled against the saucer as I set it down. Oh. Yeah, Jessica's always complaining about how her husband's mom is so involved in their business. Always wanting to help, always around. It's sweet, I guess, but... Stella shrugged, typing rapidly on her phone. I watched her fingers fly across the screen, probably commiserating with Jessica about pushy older women. About women like me. Well, I said slowly, I suppose every family dynamic is different. Exactly. Stella looked up from her phone, that bright smile back in place. You're so understanding, Barbara. That's what makes you special. Special. Right. After she left, I did something I'd never done before. I made a list. Not just the mortgage payments. Everything. The down payment I'd given them for the house. $50,000. The wedding I'd helped pay for because Stella's parents couldn't contribute much. $15,000. Mark's student loans I'd quietly paid off. $22,000. The furniture for their first apartment. $8,000. Car repairs, emergency vet bills for their dog. The vacation to Europe they desperately needed after Mark's stressful year. $12,000. Christmas and birthday gifts, dinner tabs I'd always picked up, groceries I'd bought during my weekly visits. Probably another $10,000 over the years. The total made me sit down hard in my kitchen chair. $347,400. $347,400. I stared at the number I'd written down. Almost everything I had left from Harold's life insurance. Nearly half my retirement savings. Money I'd given freely, gladly, because I thought I was investing in love. That weekend, Mark and Stella invited me to dinner. Just family time, Stella had said on the phone. Maybe we could order Chinese? I arrived at their house, the house I'd been paying for, with a bottle of wine and fresh flowers, same as always. But this time I noticed how Stella's smile faltered just slightly when she opened the door. Barbara. Come in, come in. Mark's just finishing up some work emails. I followed her into the living room, seeing it with new eyes. The expensive furniture we'd picked out together. The hardwood floors I'd helped them afford. The family photos where I was always positioned slightly outside the main group. Mark emerged from his home office, phone still in his hand. Hey, Mom. Sorry, just one more call to make. On a Saturday? I asked. You know how it is. He kissed my cheek distractedly. Stella, did you order the food yet? Just about to. Barbara, you still like General Tso's chicken, right? I nodded, watching as Mark disappeared back into his office. Watching as Stella's shoulders relaxed the moment he was gone, like she'd been holding herself tense while pretending everything was normal. He's been so stressed, Stella confided, moving closer to me on the couch. The pressure at work is intense. But once he gets that promotion, Everything will be different. Different how? Oh, more stable. More independent. She caught herself, that bright smile snapping back into place. I mean, we'll always need your wisdom and support, of course. You're irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. But only until they could replace me. Mark's voice carried from the office, apparently on his phone call. Yeah, Mom's here for dinner. I know. Maybe an hour or two. Okay, love you. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. He was talking to someone about me being there. Someone he said love you to. And it wasn't Stella, she was sitting right next to me. My son was married, but he was saying love you to someone else. Someone who apparently needed to know how long I'd be staying for dinner. The Chinese food arrived, and we ate in their dining room at the table I'd helped them buy. The conversation felt stilted, full of long pauses and glances between Mark and Stella that I was clearly not meant to understand. This is nice, I said finally. Just the three of us. Yeah, Mark agreed, but he was checking his phone again. Really nice. As I drove home that night, I realized that for the first time in 8 years, I didn't feel grateful for being included in their lives. I felt like I was paying for the privilege of being tolerated. And the next mortgage payment was due in exactly 12 days. The mortgage payment sat in my online banking queue, scheduled for the 15th like clockwork. 12 days to decide if I was going to continue being their reliable ATM, or if I was finally going to stand up for myself. I chose a third option. I decided to learn more. Tuesday morning, I went to the grocery store earlier than usual. I'd noticed that Stella often shopped around the same time, and sure enough, I spotted her perfect blonde ponytail in the produce section. She was talking animatedly on her phone, completely absorbed in her conversation. I picked up a basket and moved close enough to hear, pretending to examine the apples. I'm telling you, Linda, she's driving me crazy, Stella was saying, her voice carrying that edge of irritation I'd been hearing more often lately. She shows up every Thursday like clockwork, wants to know everything about our lives, acts like she's entitled to be involved in every decision we make. My hand froze on an apple. I know she pays the mortgage, but God, the strings attached. Mark won't say anything because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings, but honestly, she's suffocating us. We can't even plan a weekend trip without her asking a million questions about where we're going and when we'll be back. Linda must have said something because Stella laughed, a harsh sound I'd never heard from her before. Right? That's exactly what I told Jessica. Some mothers-in-law just don't know when to step back. She acts like she's still Mark's primary relationship, like I'm just some temporary thing. Stella moved toward the checkout, still talking. The worst part is she's so needy. Always wanting to be included. Always fishing for invitations. It's exhausting pretending to be excited about coffee dates and family dinners, when all I want is space to build my own family. I stood there holding that apple, my face burning with shame and anger. Needy. Suffocating. Exhausting to pretend to enjoy my company. But she wasn't done. Linda, you should see how she decorates that guest room for us. It's like a shrine. Pictures of Mark as a baby, his old baseball trophies, even his high school graduation photo. She's created this weird museum to his childhood, and she expects us to be grateful. Stella's voice dropped to a whisper. Between you and me, I think she's having a hard time accepting that he's not her little boy anymore. It's actually kind of sad. Sad. She pitied me. I put the apple back and walked out of the store, my chest tight with humiliation. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd heard. The guest room I'd lovingly prepared. They saw it as pathetic. The questions I asked about their lives, they were invasions of privacy. The coffee dates I looked forward to all week. She was counting down the minutes until she could escape. Everything I thought was love they experienced as burden. That afternoon I called my neighbor Helen, someone I'd known for 15 years but rarely talked to beyond pleasantries over the fence. Helen, do you have a few minutes to chat? Of course, Barbara. Come on over. I found myself sitting in Helen's kitchen, accepting a cup of tea I didn't really want, trying to figure out how to ask the question that was eating at me. Helen, can I ask you something? About family. Sure, honey. Do you think it's possible to love someone so much that you don't realize you're bothering them? Helen set down her teacup and studied my face. This is about Mark and Stella, isn't it? My surprise must have shown because she sighed and reached across the table to pat my hand. Barbara, I've been watching this situation for years. You're a generous woman, maybe too generous. But that girl. Helen shook her head. I've heard her on the phone in their backyard. She complains about you to anyone who'll listen. What kind of things does she say? Helen hesitated. Are you sure you want to know? I nodded even though I wasn't sure at all. She tells people you're lonely and desperate for attention, that you use money to buy affection because you don't have any friends of your own. She laughs about how you always offer to pay for things. Says it's because you know that's the only way people will want you around. Each word felt like a physical blow. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to breathe normally. Last month, she told the woman who does her nails that you call Mark too much, that you guilt-trip him into spending time with you. She said you make everything about yourself, even their anniversary and birthdays. Helen. There's more. Helen's voice was gentle but firm. She's been telling people at the gym that you're getting difficult, that you're showing signs of being too dependent on them, and they're worried about what they'll do when you get older and need more help. I stared at her, my mouth dry. She's making me sound like a burden, like I'm already falling apart. She's building a narrative, Barbara, making herself look like the patient, long-suffering daughter-in-law who's dealing with a clingy, demanding mother-in-law out of the goodness of her heart. I thought about all the time Stella had mentioned my age lately. You're getting older, Barbara. You should take it easy. At your age, you shouldn't be doing so much. We worry about you being all alone in that big house. She wasn't being caring. She was laying groundwork. Why didn't you tell me before? I asked Helen. Because you seemed happy. Because I hoped I was wrong about her. And because... Helen paused. Because I know how much you love that boy. I didn't want to be the one to tell you that his wife is poison. I drove home in a daze, Helen's words echoing in my head. Stella wasn't just ungrateful. She was actively undermining me. Every kindness I'd shown, every sacrifice I'd made, she'd twisted into evidence of my neediness and desperation. But the worst part was that Mark was letting it happen. My son, who I'd raised to be honest and loyal, was standing by while his wife destroyed my reputation and my dignity. That night I sat at my computer and did something I'd never done before. I looked up Stella's social media accounts. Her Instagram was full of carefully curated photos of her and Mark. Vacation pictures I'd helped pay for. Romantic dinners at restaurants where I'd slipped Mark extra money for something special. Their beautiful home with the mortgage I'd been covering. In 8 years of photos I appeared in exactly 3. Always on the edge of the frame. Always looking slightly uncomfortable. Like I was photobombing their perfect life. But it was the captions that really hurt. So grateful for this amazing man and the life we've built together. Hard work pays off. Living our best life. Never once did she mention the help they'd received. Never once did she acknowledge the sacrifice that had made their amazing life possible. I scrolled through Mark's Facebook page and found more of the same. Posts about their achievements, their travels, their happiness. All of it funded by money I'd given freely, but presented as if they'd earned it all on their own. I closed the laptop and walked to my bedroom, where I kept Harold's old photo albums. I found pictures of Mark as a child, as a teenager, as a young man just starting his career. In every photo he was smiling at me with genuine love and respect. When had that changed? When had I become someone to be managed instead of cherished? The mortgage payment was due in 8 days, and for the first time in 8 years I wasn't sure I was going to make it. The 15th came and went. For the first time in 8 years I didn't make the mortgage payment. I sat at my kitchen table that morning, my laptop open to the banking page, cursor hovering over the transfer button. All it would take was one click and everything would go back to normal. Stella would keep pretending to love our coffee dates. Mark would keep calling me with that polite distance in his voice. I would keep being useful, tolerated, financially necessary. Instead I closed the laptop. My phone started ringing on the 17th. Barbara, hi. Stella's voice was bright, but I could hear something underneath it. A tightness that hadn't been there before. I hope you're doing well. Mark and I were wondering if you'd like to come over for dinner this weekend. Maybe Saturday. That sounds lovely, dear. Great. Oh, and Barbara? Our mortgage company sent us a weird notice. Something about a late payment? I'm sure it's just a computer error, but you might want to call them. I stirred my coffee slowly, letting the silence stretch. A late payment? Yeah, it's probably nothing. You know how these automated systems can be glitchy. But just in case, you might want to check your bank account? Make sure the payment went through. I'll look into it, I said calmly. Thanks, you're an angel. See you Saturday. She hung up quickly, and I could practically hear the relief in her voice that I'd agreed to look into it. She thought I'd made a mistake. Before I tell you more about my story, I want to ask, have you ever felt muscle or joint pain like I have? Best Joint Care is a natural supplement that goes straight to the root of the pain, so you can move more freely and enjoy life again. Thousands of people have already said goodbye to joint pain. You could be next. Click the link pinned in the comments to get yours. Now back to my story. That I'd forgotten, or that there'd been some technical issue with my bank. She had no idea this was intentional. Saturday arrived, and I showed up at their house with a bottle of wine, same as always. But this time I was watching their faces more carefully. Mark hugged me at the door, but his smile was strained. Hey Mom. Thanks for coming. Of course. I wouldn't miss it. Stella appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Barbara. Perfect timing. Dinner's almost ready. She paused, studying my face. You look tired. Are you feeling okay? I was tired. Tired of pretending, tired of being used, tired of being lied to. But I just smiled and handed her the wine. We made it through the appetizers and most of the main course before Stella couldn't contain herself anymore. So, she said, setting down her fork with studied casualness, did you get that mortgage thing sorted out? I looked up from my plate. What mortgage thing? The late payment notice? You said you'd look into it. Oh, that. I took a sip of wine. There wasn't any error. Mark and Stella exchanged a quick glance. What do you mean? Mark asked. I mean, I didn't pay it this month. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see them both trying to process this information, trying to figure out if I was joking or if something was seriously wrong. Mom, Mark said carefully, you always pay on the 15th. Did something happen? Are you having financial problems? It was fascinating watching him try to navigate this conversation. He was worried, but not about me. He was worried about the payment, about what this meant for them. No financial problems, I said evenly. I just decided not to pay it this month. Stella's carefully maintained composure cracked just a little. Barbara, I don't understand. Did we do something wrong? Are you upset about something? The concern in her voice was so perfectly performed that I almost believed it. Almost. Why would you think you did something wrong? Well, we just. Stella floundered, looking to Mark for help. Mom, this isn't like you, Mark said. You've never missed a payment. You've always been so reliable. Reliable. There was that word again. I've been thinking, I said, cutting into my chicken as if we were discussing the weather. 8 years is a long time to help with the mortgage. Most people would have their finances sorted out by now. We do have our finances sorted out, Stella said quickly. It's just that the mortgage payment is so high, and with Mark still working toward his promotion. How long have you been working toward this promotion, Mark? My son shifted uncomfortably in his chair. It's competitive, Mom. These things take time. I nodded thoughtfully. And in the meantime, I'm supposed to keep paying your mortgage. It's not like that, Stella interjected, her voice taking on a slight edge. We're not demanding anything from you. You offered to help, remember? You said you wanted to see us get established. I did say that. I met her eyes across the table. But I also thought that after 8 years you'd be, what's the word? Established. The room felt heavy with tension. Mark was staring at his plate, and Stella was gripping her wine glass like it might shatter. Barbara, Stella said, her voice carefully controlled. If you don't want to help anymore, we understand. We just need some notice so we can figure out other arrangements. What kind of other arrangements? Another glance between them. We could look into refinancing. Or maybe take out a loan. From who? From a bank. I almost laughed. They had no plan. For 8 years, they'd been so comfortable with my payments that they'd never even considered what they'd do if I stopped. They just assumed I'd keep paying forever. The thing is, I said, setting down my fork, Banks require proof of income, steady employment, good credit. Do you have all of that? Mark's face had gone pale. Mom, what are you getting at? I'm not getting at anything, sweetheart. I'm just wondering how you plan to afford a $2,400 mortgage payment on your salary alone. We'll manage, Stella said, but her voice was shaking slightly. I'm sure you will. You're both very resourceful. I smiled at them, the same warm smile I'd been giving them for years. When do you think you'll have it figured out? Have what figured out? How you're going to make the payment. It's due again on the 15th. The blood drained from Stella's face. Barbara, you can't just stop paying without warning us. I'm warning you now. 13 days notice. That should be plenty of time to make arrangements. Mark finally found his voice. Mom, I don't understand what's happening here. This isn't like you. Isn't it? How do you know what I'm like, Mark? When was the last time you asked me about my life? My feelings? My plans? I kept my voice gentle, curious. When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about you and Stella? He opened his mouth, then closed it. He couldn't answer because the answer was never. I think, I said, reaching for my purse, I should head home. Thank you for dinner. It was illuminating. I stood up and they both scrambled to their feet. Barbara, please, Stella said, and for the first time I heard real fear in her voice. Don't leave like this. Let's talk about this. Let's figure something out. There's nothing to figure out, dear. You're adults. You have jobs. You have 13 days to adult your way through this problem. I walked toward the door, and they followed me like lost puppies. Mom, Mark said, his voice breaking slightly. We need you. I turned around and looked at my son. Really looked at him. At 35, he was still letting his mother pay his bills while his wife badmouthed me to anyone who would listen. No, Mark, I said softly. You need my money. There's a difference. I left them standing in their doorway, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe properly. The calls started the next morning. First Mark, then Stella, then Mark again. I let them all go to voicemail. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk about this. Barbara, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Please just call me. Mom, I'm worried about you. This isn't like you at all. Please just pick up the phone. I listened to each message twice, hearing the escalating panic in their voices. The careful politeness of the first few calls gave way to barely controlled desperation by the fifth one. Barbara, this is serious. We could lose the house. Please, whatever we did wrong, we can fix it. Just call me back. On Tuesday, they showed up at my door. I saw them through the window, standing on my front porch like awkward teenagers. Mark was pacing, running his hands through his hair. Stella was checking her phone, probably calculating how many days they had left. I opened the door before they could knock. This is a surprise, I said pleasantly. I wasn't expecting you. Mom, we need to talk. Mark looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes. His usually perfect hair disheveled. Can we come in? Of course. I led them into my living room. The same room where they'd announced their engagement 9 years ago. The same room where Stella had cried about their financial struggles, while I wrote them a check for the house down payment. They sat on my couch like they were in a doctor's office waiting for bad news. Barbara, Stella began, her voice carefully modulated. I think we need to clear the air. It feels like there's been some kind of misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? About the mortgage payments. About our arrangement. She leaned forward, her expression earnest. You've been so generous to us over the years, and we don't want you to feel like we're taking advantage of that generosity. Are you taking advantage of it? The question hung in the air like smoke. Mark shifted uncomfortably. Of course not, Stella said quickly. We're family. Family helps each other. That's true, I agreed. Family does help each other. Tell me, Stella, how have you helped me lately? She blinked, clearly not expecting the question. We spend time with you. We include you in our lives. You include me in your lives. I repeated the words slowly, tasting them. Is that what you call it? Mom, what's this really about? Mark asked. If you're angry about something, just tell us. We can work through it. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised to be honest and kind, and made a decision. No more games. No more pretending. I heard you, Stella. Her face went very still. Heard me what? I heard you talking to Jessica. About me being dead weight. About how you can't wait until you don't need my mortgage payments anymore. The color drained from her face. Mark turned to look at her, confusion and horror warring in his expression. Barbara, I heard you telling Linda about how suffocating I am, how exhausting it is to pretend to enjoy spending time with me. My voice remained calm, conversational. I heard you laughing about my guest room, calling it a shrine, talking about how sad it is that I can't accept that Mark isn't my little boy anymore. Mom, what is she talking about? Mark's voice was barely a whisper. And then I talked to Helen. I turned to Mark. Did you know that your wife tells people I'm lonely and desperate? That I use money to buy affection because I don't have any real friends. Stella's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She tells people at her gym that I'm getting difficult, that I'm too dependent on you both. She's been building a case against me, Mark, making me sound like a pathetic old woman who guilts her son into spending time with her. Stella, is this true? Mark's voice was sharp now, angry. It's not like that, Stella stammered. Those conversations were taken out of context. I was venting. Everyone vents about their in-laws sometimes. Venting. I nodded. Is that what you call it when you tell people I'm a burden? When you mock my attempts to be close to my own son? I never said you were a burden. No. I pulled out my phone and opened the notes app where I'd written down everything Helen had told me. Let me see. She uses money to buy affection because she knows that's the only way people will want her around. Did I get that right? Stella looked like she was going to be sick. Mom, I had no idea, Mark said, his voice shaking with anger and shame. I swear to you, I had no idea she was saying these things. Didn't you? I asked quietly. When she complained about my phone calls, did you tell her to stop? When she rolled her eyes at my questions about your lives, did you defend me? When she made jokes about my age, my loneliness, my need for family, did you ever once tell her to show me some respect? Mark's silence was answer enough. You both took my money, my love, my support, and you used it while laughing at me behind my back. You let me believe I was helping you build a life together when really I was just funding your comfort, while you counted down the days until you could get rid of me. Barbara, please, Stella whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to hear those things. You're not sorry you said them. You're sorry I found out. That's not true, isn't it? Because if it were true, you would have apologized years ago. You would have stopped saying them. You would have treated me with the respect I deserved as your husband's mother and your benefactor. I stood up, suddenly exhausted by the whole conversation. The mortgage payment is due in 9 days. You have 9 days to figure out how to pay it yourselves, or how to sell the house, or how to move somewhere you can actually afford on your own income. Mom, please don't do this, Mark begged. We can fix this. We can make it right. How? By pretending the last 8 years didn't happen? By acting like I didn't hear what I heard? By going back to the way things were, where I pay your bills while you mock me to your friends? We'll do better, Stella said desperately. I'll do better. I'll never say another word about you to anyone. Because you'll be more careful not to get caught. Or because you'll actually respect me? She couldn't answer. I think you should go now, I said gently. You have a lot to figure out, and not much time to do it. They left without another word, and I watched through my window as they sat in their car for 20 minutes, arguing. Stella was crying, gesturing wildly. Mark was gripping the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Finally, they drove away, and I was alone with my decision. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. The house sold in 3 weeks. Helen told me over coffee on a Thursday morning, our new Thursday morning tradition. I saw the realtor putting up the sold sign yesterday, she said, stirring honey into her tea. They moved fast. I'm sure they did. I buttered my toast, surprised by how little I felt about it. No satisfaction, no regret. Just peace. Any word from Mark? He called once about 2 weeks ago. Left a voicemail saying they found a rental house closer to his work. Smaller, more affordable. He sounded. I paused, searching for the right word. Tired. But not angry anymore. That voicemail had been different from the desperate, pleading calls of those first few days. Mark's voice had been quiet, thoughtful. Mom, I know you probably don't want to hear from me right now, but I wanted you to know that we're okay. We found a place. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let things get so bad. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I took you for granted. A long pause. I love you, Mom. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hadn't called him back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some things once broken stay broken. But for the first time I believed he was genuinely sorry, not just sorry he'd lost his financial safety net. What about Stella? Nothing from Stella. But then I wouldn't expect anything from her. Helen nodded. Probably for the best. That girl was poison. I sipped my coffee and looked out Helen's kitchen window at the garden she'd been working on. You know what's funny? I thought I'd feel vindicated. Triumphant. Like I'd won some great victory. But you don't. No. I just feel free. And I did. For the first time since Harold died 12 years ago, I wasn't responsible for anyone else's financial security. I wasn't managing anyone else's emotions or tiptoeing around anyone else's expectations. My savings account, no longer drained by monthly mortgage payments, had started growing again. Last week, I'd done something I hadn't done in years. I'd looked at vacation packages online. Not places I might take Mark and Stella, not destinations that would be convenient for visits from them. Places I wanted to go. For me. Are you thinking of traveling? Helen asked as if reading my mind. Maybe. There's a photography tour of Ireland I've been looking at. 3 weeks, small group, no pressure. I smiled. Harold and I always talked about going to Ireland. That sounds wonderful, Barbara. You should do it. I think I will. After coffee with Helen, I drove to the grocery store. As I was loading my cart, I spotted a familiar figure in the cereal aisle. Mark, looking older than his 35 years, reading nutrition labels with the focused attention of someone who now had to watch every penny. Our eyes met across the aisle. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he walked over slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal that might bolt. Hi, Mom. Hello, Mark. He looked tired but healthier somehow, like he'd lost weight he'd needed to lose, gained some muscle from actual physical work. His clothes were simpler, less expensive. He looked more like the son I'd raised, less like the entitled man-child I'd been supporting. How are you? I'm well. How are you settling into the new place? It's good. Small but good. Stella's actually working now. She got a job at a marketing firm downtown. Turns out she's pretty good at it when she has to be. I nodded. That's nice for her. An awkward silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we weren't saying. Mom, I know I left you a voicemail, but I wanted to say it in person. I'm sorry. For all of it. For letting her talk about you that way. For taking your help for granted. For not standing up for you when I should have. I know you are. Is there any chance we could try again? Start over. I studied his face, looking for signs of the old Mark underneath the weariness. What would that look like? I don't know. Maybe we could have coffee sometime. Just us. No Stella, no agenda, no asking for anything. Just talk. Like we used to when I was younger. The offer was tempting. But I'd learned the hard way that some patterns, once established, are almost impossible to break. I need more time, Mark. His face fell, but he nodded. I understand. But Mom? When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. And I'll be different. I promise. We'll see. He started to walk away, then turned back. I love you, Mom. I know I didn't show it very well, but I do love you. I love you too, sweetheart. I always have. This time when he walked away, it didn't feel like an ending. Felt like a pause. I finished my shopping and drove home to my quiet house, my peaceful kitchen, my guest room that I'd finally converted into a craft room. No more shrine to my son's childhood. Now it was filled with supplies for the watercolor painting I'd taken up, the pottery wheel I'd bought on impulse, the easel where I practiced the drawing techniques I was learning from YouTube videos. That evening, I called the travel agency and booked the Ireland photography tour. 3 weeks in County Cork and County Kerry, learning to capture the light on ancient stone circles and dramatic coastal cliffs. I would go alone, and for the first time in years that didn't scare me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment my heart jumped, wondering if it was Stella trying to contact me from a new phone. But it was something even better. Hi Barbara. This is Sarah from the photography tour company. I saw that you're traveling solo, and wanted to let you know that we have several other solo travelers in your group. Looking forward to meeting you in Dublin. I smiled and typed back. Looking forward to it too. Thank you for thinking of me. I set the phone down and walked to my kitchen window, looking out at my own small garden where I planted vegetables for the first time in decades. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs that I would use in meals I would cook for myself in portions I would choose at times that suited my schedule. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was mine. And for the first time since Harold died, I was genuinely happy to be exactly where I was. Exactly who I was, without apology or explanation to anyone. Some endings, I realized, are actually beginnings in disguise.